Hello everyone! Today I'm going to talk about the warehouse and the white/blacklisting. Note that this video will contain spoilers, so if you wish to explore the world of Aska on your own, now is the time to turn off this video. Still here? Good, let's proceed. I assume most of you recognize this site. Your wood chopper has started deforesting the place, but the storage can't hold everything, so it keeps lying on the ground. I also dismantled all my shelters since I moved the villagers over to the cottage. So much materials on the floor, and on top of that the stone cutter is complaining that the storage is full. Now this won't do. We can also not upgrade the gathering buildings yet, so we can't expand their storage for the time being. We need a different solution. If we go to the builder menu, category 13, we find the warehouse. Just as it sounds, it's a place to store resources. Just like with the workshop, we see that we have these two extra green fields. These are add-ons to make the warehouse bigger. I am going to build it over here. Done. Very empty, isn't it? Before I dive into how to store materials here, we are going to open the structure menu and we are going to build the warehouse extensions. And as you can see, the side that is supposed to touch the warehouse that is already existing will have a plus sign. Note that if there are things on the ground, like for example a legendary mushroom, you will not be able to place the blueprint until the obstacle has been removed. Bam bam, and the warehouse extensions are built. As you can see in the tooltip, we can assign 2 workers here. But since the building is just a big empty space, we first need to decide what we want to store here. In the builder menu, category 13, we find next to the warehouse all the warehouse containers. And as you can see, there is a lot of them. At this time, almost all in-game items can be stored at the warehouse. So what should we build now? We know that we have wood lying around on the floor and that the stone cutter storage is full. So let's start with that. I am going to build 1 log storage, 2 long stick storage, 1 bark storage, 2 stick storages, and 2 firewood storages. But as you see, I can't place these blueprints because I'm not actually inside the warehouse. So what you need to do is to walk up into the warehouse and then open the menu. And here you will be able to place your blueprints. As you can see, the warehouse has a little grid, and each storage container is going to have different sizes and shapes, so it's time to play some Tetris. Long stick storage, stick storage, bark storage, and firewood storage. You can build as many as you want, but for the first warehouse I tried to place storages that are urgent right now. Later you will likely build a lot of warehouses dedicated to specific materials, but that's a trouble for future us. As it's getting dark, we will wait until the morning to continue. During the night, I summoned 2 new villagers. They were hard at work and finished building all the wooden containers, and now we will continue placing more structures to build. Next on the urgent list we had stone, so I will put down a large stone container. But if you notice, there is no small stone containers. That is because small stones can be put into this small crafting material storage together with a lot of other materials. So I will build 3 of these so that we can look over all the items that can be inside. Another thing that became urgent is the gathering hut. As you can see here, we have food on the floor. The reason for this is because the food storage is full. To help store all the raw food, we will build a raw food silo. or 2. I also like to build the cooked food storage as a complement to the raw one. Next, we're going to think a bit ahead. The more buildings we make, the more villagers we need to man them, so we're going to need more and more tools to be crafted as well. But the workshop storage is pretty small, so in order to help out with that, we are going to build 1 weapons and tool rack and 2 arrow storages. Alright, all the storages that we planned are up, and now we can deep dive into how the storages work. We have access to 2 types of wood, from the fir trees and from the birch trees. The fir trees drop what we know as logs and long sticks, while the birch trees drop what is called hardwood, logs and long sticks. The reason I mention this is cause we can set priorities on every warehouse container and decide what we want to be stored in them. So now when I'm hovering over the log storage, you can see that we can press Q to open tasks. Here you can see that we have 2 different tasks for the log storage. Right now we only have access to fir logs, but in the future we will have both. Thanks to this, you can dictate which of these you would like to have in each of your storage containers. Since we currently are not harvesting any hardwood, I am going to set the priority to 0, which will make the warehouse worker not even look for them. Later, we might want to change how many of each is stored in a container like this. When we go to the long stick storage, we have exactly the same setup. The stick, bark and firewood storages only have 1 task. The reason why we even have the task list for these containers with only 1 item is because we are still gonna be able to prioritize if we want them to grab these materials with higher priority or with lower priority. Now the first more complicated container is the small crafting material storage. As you can see, the list of items is quite long. If you don't make any changes, the warehouse workers will grab whatever they find closest to the warehouse and will fill this container. Personally, I don't like having a lot of different items thrown into the same container, so what I do is that I go here to the priority and I press on the down button until everything is on none. And then I pick what item I want to have in this storage and bump it up to medium. For this storage, let's take small stones. For the second one, let's have rope and fiber. And for the third, let's have feathers. Then we're gonna take a look at the raw food silo. Just like the previous container, this one has a long list of food items. Here though, I don't bother changing stuff as I want all my food to simply be at the warehouse. Then we get to the cooked food storage. If we open the tasks, you can see a list of all the food that the barbecue can produce, but also some higher tier food that we by default know how to make. This early, I don't bother changing anything in this container either. And now we move on to the most discussed container of them all. The weapons and tool rack. Just like with the other containers, you can press Q to see a list of all unlocked tools and weapons. Now, remember when I told you about the workshop and how Anders makes new tools the moment someone grabs something out of the workshop storage? In combination with the tools rack at the warehouse, you might end up with 20 of whatever tool or weapon that has first priority at the workshop due to Anders trying to fill the task given to him. Basically, Anders makes an axe, Joe grabs the axe and put it into the warehouse, Anders makes a new one, and Joe comes to grab that one as well, and so on. And suddenly, you have a warehouse full of one thing. Most of us don't want that, so what we do is that we go into the tasks at the weapon and tool rack. Again, press down on the priorities until everything is none. Then we find the items we actually want, bump them up to medium, and change the quantity. So in this example, I'm going to want 3 large stone axes and some wooden hammers. Important to note is that the moment you unlock new weapons or tools, they will show up here in the task list, but their priority will by default be set to medium and 20 in quantity. For myself, that's not a big problem as I have a handful of weapons and tools that I like, so I don't need to worry about the racks getting filled with items I don't want since they don't get produced. Should you at some point realize that you don't want to have one of the containers, you can dismantle them. You do that by walking up to the container you want to remove and pressing Q. Then you go to the left menu and press Dismantle. Just like with the other buildings with storages, if you dismantle a storage at the warehouse that have items in storage, they will be destroyed. You will get back the resources spent in building the storage itself. So if you have valuables in storage and want to remove the storage container, just make sure to pick out the items first. Something that is very important is that the durability of items do not decline while in storage. That means that you can have as much food as you want at the warehouse and it's not going to go bad. There, we have talked about all the basic container things. You now know how to make sure you get the things you want to the warehouse. Now I will briefly mention that later you will be able to upgrade your warehouse. With that, the health points of the building will increase and you will be able to have 4 workers assigned instead of 2. You can also build add-ons like roofs to reduce the damage taken from weather events. Personally, I don't like the roofs. Take a look at this angle. Not only that, now you can't jump out on the sides anymore. While normally you could come inside whenever you wanted. Let's assign Aori and let her get to work. Since all the priors in the warehouse are on medium, she will pick up the things that are the closest to the warehouse first and bring them back. You will notice that if the warehouse is a little bit further away from where your woodcutter is deforesting the island, no wood will be picked up. What you can do is to go and build the building resource marker. You find it in the builder menu category 11. Both builders and warehouse workers will come looking in the area of this marker for any materials they require. As Aori has a lot of different items to pick up, you might feel that something is more important than other, like for example the cooked or raw food. We can go back and change the priors to high. And then she will try to fill these storages first. There is something going on right now referred to as the warehouse wars. At this time, warehouse workers do not care about anything else than to grab the items they need to fill the storages at their warehouse. A problem with this is that they go and grab materials out of buildings where they should not, like the cooking house, the workshop, cottages, and alike. The community has left a lot of feedback about this to the devs, but thanks to another feature in the game, we can work around it for now. I am going to introduce you to the white and blacklisting. If you open any building menu that has storages, you will find that there is a tab called Whitelist. When we go here, you can see that all the villagers has access to this building's storages. If we now uncheck the whitelist all villagers, everyone will show up on the list in red. They will now not be able to access any of the storages of this building. As this is the warehouse, I just want to make sure that you know that the warehouse workers will be able to deposit items into the containers without any issue, even if they are blacklisted. If we then want a specific worker to have access, for example Anders at the workshop pit, we simply press on add. Some players use this for their food storage to stop villagers from taking raw food. Should a villager start to starve, they will bypass any blacklisting in order to survive. So how does this help with the issue I described before? Say that our warehouse only gathers wood, and they keep taking wood out of the workshop pit when Anders is trying to craft. What we can do then is to open the menu at the workshop pit, go to the whitelist, uncheck everyone, then press on add to add everyone, and then we can find the person we don't want to have access and remove that person alone. With this, everyone else will have access to the workshop pit to pick up the tools they need, etc., while the warehouse worker that normally would be stealing the resources don't have access anymore. Another thing people ask about is, will the warehouse workers restock other workplaces? The answer is no. The way any job is set up in Aska is that they do only what they need to work. So a warehouse worker's job is to fill the storages at the warehouse. A crafter's job is to get materials and craft. If there is a warehouse with said materials, they will go there to grab them. This concludes the walkthrough of the warehouse and the white/blacklistings. Thank you for watching.